Hey guys, I'm pretty excited for this video because we have the all new Elegoo Mars 3. So this is heavily updated with not only the looks, but also the technology inside. So in this video, we're gonna unbox it, set it up, and do some prints. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get started. Alright, so this is the box that the Elegoo Mars comes in. Not too much more information there. And on the side, we just have a picture. And the package weighs about 15-16 pounds. So let's go ahead and open it up. So we can see foam here on top. I'm just gonna flip it around and we'll just dump it out. So yeah, it looks like lots of protection there inside. Foam all around. So we can see the printer, very interesting. It looks really rounded off. We got a toolkit box and our tools and accessories are in there. So we'll go through this in a second. Now let's go ahead and stand this guy up. All right, well, yeah. So also in there we had the instruction manual and it's very nicely laid out. Goes over the printer, Mars 3 specs there. Also, we have this little Ziploc baggie with an extra FEP film in there, or maybe a couple. Okay, yeah, so there's 2 extras. That's nice. All right, so let's get the plastic off of the printer here. So it's completely sealed, which is nice to see. So the base looks like is all plastic. That's kind of interesting. We got plastic feet, so there's no rubber or any kind of foam pads or anything like that. So it should slide around easy. We'll also have a little vent on the bottom. All right, so now we can see a little better what it looks like. Very interesting curvy design. Kind of looks futuristic. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the lid off here and it looks like everything inside is coming out with it. All right, so it's all kind of separating. No big deal. Lots of foam, and here we do have our build plate. And it looks pretty familiar from the other printers that Elegoo makes. They got this nice heavy duty spring loaded ballpoint here where you can adjust it. And this is all metal. We got a nice large knob that locks it in. I love how they stick into the same tapered on all sides build plate. This one here has a protector over it. And on the surface, we have like this almost like a sand blasted texture. And it looks like the prints will stick very well to that. All right, so I'm gonna leave this on here for now. And by the way, the print area is 143 millimeters wide, 89 millimeters deep, and 175 tall. So let's go ahead and unwrap this cover. And check this thing out, guys. It looks really cool. And I love how Elegoo uses like this red tinted shade of color for their printers. It does look really nice. And yeah, this cover, you guys maybe can see, it does have a really nice design. And it sits here right on top. And it has a nice little lip that it kind of aligns to. So yeah, very cool. No letters or anything on the lid itself. Looks pretty clean overall. All right, so let's take a closer look at the Mars 3 here. What's interesting is there's no wording of anywhere that I see that says Mars. So we do have a reasonably sized screen here, not large at all, but not tiny either. Our USB port, and it is on the front, so that's nice to see. And here we have a power button to turn the printer on and off. So turning it on the side, we can see we just have some vents here. Same thing on the other side, just venting. And on the back, we got the power input port and some of the specs of the printer, which says Mars 3, the machine size in millimeters, the input voltage, and the weight, which is 5.2 kilograms, which is around 11-12 pounds. So even though our base here is plastic, as we go up, we start to see metal. So this part here is all metal. Our main Z-axis frame piece is also all metal, but at the very top, we do have a plastic cover, and that's just for looks. So on the front top here, we have the tub, which secures by these 2 little bolts, and they do completely come out. So the tub itself is made out of metal, feels like aluminum. We got the FEP film inside. On the back side, you guys can see that you can release these bolts and change out the film. And also there is a protector that we need to remove before we put it back in. And also a nice little detail, if you guys can see, baby, there's little tiny feet on the four corners, and that's these 4 bolts here. And that makes it nice because you can set it down without the film touching the bottom of the table. So yeah, I like to see attention to detail like that. So here we can see the main screen, 6.6 inch. So yeah, this is probably one of the main features of this printer, is that it is a 4K monochrome LCD. So yeah, not only are we getting really fast printing, but we're also getting long life. So yeah, I'm really excited to see what our print quality is gonna look like. Go ahead and take this protector off. So the Z-axis runs on a linear rail. You guys can see that with our lead screw here. And this frame arm here is all metal, very nice and heavy duty feeling. So yeah, they definitely didn't cheap out on anything important here. So we get really high quality all metal parts in all of the functioning areas. So let's move this out of the way for now, and we'll take a closer look of what's inside this toolkit. And there's quite a few things in here, guys. So right on top, we have some tools, Allen wrenches, and looks like some extra bolts if you ever need some. Get a plastic spatula, which is great to scrape off the film if you needed to. We do get some nice quality cutters, and this is good for processing your models and cutting off supports off of it. We get some strain filters, quite a few of them. So you need filters to pour back your unused resin back in the bottle. We get a couple masks, which is nice. We also get a normal spatula, and this one here you'll use to scrape your models off of the build plate. And then we got some gloves, and you definitely want to wear this when you're handling resin. We got our power supply, which is the brick. This end here will plug into the machine, and on the other end we got the US type grounded plug that you'll plug in the wall. And the power adapter is a 24 volt 3 amps, which is 72 watts. We also get a thumb drive, and there's usually things in there like a test model, PDF files, and also a slicer program. And for the last part, which is kind of interesting because we get a little G2 box card that looks like includes the pro version of G2 box for a whole year with this printer. All right, so let's go ahead, plug it in here in the back. And there is a power button here. And by the way, guys, this thing really moves around easy. So I guess that's maybe a plus, maybe not so plus, I don't know. I guess it depends what you're sitting on. But for a resin printer, I guess it's fine that it moves around. It's easier to kind of manage it. Yeah, let's go ahead and hit this power button, see what happens. So it was silent in the beginning, and now it turned on the fans. Not sure why, but it does idle with the fans on. So interesting looking display menu there. Looks very simple. Let's go ahead and look through it. So we have tools, system, and print. Let's click on tools. So we got manual adjustment, exposure set to 0, stop, tank clean, and back. So the font is really small, kind of hard to see what's what, but the buttons themselves are decent size. So let's go back for a second. Here we have system, about the printer, and you can turn on the sound here, on and off, and it comes with it off. Touchscreen calibration, we don't need to do that. Service, how to contact the company. A language, so we have quite a few to choose from. Very nice to see. We're going to choose English. And that's it here. Then we have the print button, which nothing's there because we haven't plugged in anything in the USB port. All right, so let's go to tools. On manual here, we can move the Z-axis up and down. So you can do that here. Now, one thing we can do is test the exposure on the LCD, see if it works. So we'll click on that. It's gonna ask us for how long. 15 seconds should be good. We'll click on next. And it does project this image here on top, and you guys can see what it looks like there. So that shows us that our UV lights are working and our LCD screen is working. And so there are 36 UV cob lights inside, which is a new feature, I guess, and also a new copper heatsink to cool them off. And that should greatly improve the life of this printer overall. And so Elegoo says that even after 6,000 hours of exposure printing, the light output only degrades about 5%. So yeah, this printer is definitely designed for the long haul. All right, so let's go back here, and here we have set to 0. So if you need to reset your Z-axis, you could do that here. We got stop, tank clean. So tank clean basically just exposes the whole screen, so the LCD lets all the light go through, and you guys can see what that looks like here. It's completely wide open. You can maybe see the light pattern inside, how it comes in. They do say it's very uniform in the Mars 3. So you would use the tank clean whenever you have a little bit of resin left in here, and instead of trying to wash it out, you could use this feature here to solidify the rest of it, whatever's left inside, and then peel it off. So yeah, that's pretty much everything. And what's interesting is I don't see any bed leveling, so I'm guessing maybe that it's here, and maybe this is what that means. All right, so according to the manual, that button is supposed to be home. All right, so yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the home button. So let's go ahead and click on 10 millimeters and run the Z-axis up a bit. And we'll grab our build plate, remove this protector, and go ahead and install it on the arm here. And so the way to level this platform is there's 2 bolts here that we're gonna have to loosen. Grab the Allen wrench. Okay, so now you guys can see our build plate just moves around in any direction. And what's interesting is also up and down, there's a spring in there. So now we need some kind of sheet of paper. I'm just gonna use the manual, just one sheet here, 1 page. But yeah, I'm just gonna click home now, and the platform should go down to where it's supposed to be. So sure enough, there it goes. All right. Okay, so it's settling down. So it did compress on the spring just a little bit. We should be good right there. So the spring is actually pushing the whole plate down. So all we got to do is grab our wrench, maybe put a little bit of pressure with like 2 fingers like this. Not too much, because you don't want to push too hard on the LCD screen. Just a little bit, make sure that it's nice and flat. And also make sure your orientation is good side to side, because it does move everywhere. So okay, mine looks pretty good right there. So I'm just going to tighten it right here. All right, and you don't have to go crazy on this, just, you know, snug, and that should be good. Let's go back up. And now we should have a leveled platform. So let's go ahead and home it again to make sure everything's good. And just by eyeballing it, it looks pretty much perfect. Now it's very possible that this might be too close to the screen because we still have the vat with the film. So for some printers, you know, this works fine. For others, you might want to, you know, use a little thicker paper, maybe use 2 or 3 sheets of paper if you're, you know, getting like an elephant foot on the bottom, or it's sticking way too good or way too well. You know, you can re-level it by adding more paper underneath. I think we'll just leave it the way it is, and we'll adjust it later if we have to. So I'm gonna bring it back up. And we can go ahead and remove the protector off of the vat. So I do kind of wish that these bolts in the tub here held themselves from the other end with some kind of washer or something, but yeah, because if you flip it around, they kind of fall out. So yeah, now we're just gonna set this back in here, and it falls in nicely, and clamp it down. So let's go ahead and plug in the thumb drive and see if there's anything in there. It does glow, by the way. So we'll click back, and we're gonna click on print. And sure enough, there are some files in there. So those just look like folders. Let's see if there's any test files. Maybe this one here. No, that's a PDF. Okay, so it says models here. Okay, so there's some rooks there. It's usually what Elegoo uses as test models, and that's fine because I do like the rooks. So now that we know that we have some files to print, we can go ahead and pour in some resin, which this, by the way, is a water washable resin, ceramic gray by Elegoo. So yeah, this should be quite compatible. And the reason I'm using water washable, quite a bit easier to post process, which we'll also talk about in this video. So since I'm not going to be in contact with resin, I'm not wearing my gloves, but just remember you do need a well-ventilated area, so keep that in mind because fumes from this stuff are not great for you. So yeah, we're just gonna simply pour it in there now, and you guys can see we do have a max line over there where we can really fill it up. So but I'm just gonna go about halfway or so, and we should be good to start. So let's go ahead and click on the rooks, and we'll push play here, and there it goes. All right, looking good. So I do feel like that maybe we're a little bit too low on the build plate, because I noticed that as it went down, the part in the back went lower than the part in the front. So that tells me that it's hitting it and then going down lower. So I might have to adjust that, but we're just gonna go ahead and let it print. We'll see how our first models turn out, and we'll adjust from there. All right, so it's good with this first layer, going on the second. So now that we're printing, we can go ahead and put the lid on, and that'll help us with the smells. And also it'll protect the resin from UV rays, because you don't want light going in there and, you know, curing the resin that you're printing with. So it's quite important to use the cover when you are printing. So the printer is pretty quiet overall, but I would still say it's a little bit on the louder side for a resin printer, and I'll let you guys hear it. So yeah, nothing bad for sure, but you can hear it. Also, I don't know if you guys can see, but we do have a little bit of light bleeding. Not sure if you, okay, there you go. You can probably see that. But yeah, there's some UV light coming through these vents. Same thing on this side. Not a ton of it, but a little bit is getting through. All right, so let's take a closer look at the screen here. So on the top here, we can see the layer that we're printing. Kind of shows you the picture of it. The percentage that we've printed, which is 2% right now. The file name. And then we got how much time is left on the print, which is 2 hours and 38 minutes here. In the middle there, we got the time passed, which is 8 minutes. And on the right, we got the layer that we're on, which is 28 out of 1000. And on the side, we have the stop, pause, and more options button. Let's click that. So here you guys can see we can adjust the bottom layers, which are 5, and the bottom exposure is 30 seconds of those 5 layers. And then the normal exposure after that is 2.5 seconds. And then we got exposure offset. So yeah, pretty simple and intuitive menu. All right, so we're printing and everything's looking good. Now there is one feature that I like to test that I feel is quite important, which is the pause button. And the reason for that is because when you pause your print, you want your build plate to go up so you can see if your model's stuck on the bottom or not. So, you know, if you're using a new resin or you're just new to slicing and you're trying new things, you kind of want to know, you know, if your print is under there and it's doing fine before waiting a couple hours until you can see it. You know, it's only been 14 minutes and we're on layer 67. We should be able to see already how we're doing under there. So let's go ahead and click the pause button. But before we do that, I'll take this cover off. So we'll hit pause. And so far it looks good. It's going up. And sure enough, guys, it does go up enough where you can see under it. And you guys can probably see there underneath we got 2 of the rooks and they both stuck and everything is looking good. So yeah, I'm very happy to see that this feature works. And some printers don't have this, but I feel like it's absolutely necessary, especially for newcomers and beginners. So let's go ahead and push play and it should start printing again. And there it goes. So yeah, very nice to see that this feature is on the Mars 3. All right, we'll put the cover back on and we'll continue to print these rooks out and we'll see what they turn out like. All right, so our first print is finished. Let's go ahead and get this lid off. They do appear to look good, so they did stick and print out, so that's a good sign. So for the next part, guys, I want to talk about the cleaning process of the model. So if you're gonna resin print, you're gonna have to wash the models off. So since we're using washable resin, we can wash it with water, which makes it pretty simple. But if you wanna make your life a lot easier, you might wanna get yourself a wash and cure station. And it looks like I'm gonna have to make a lot more room here. All right, I think we can fit them all in. So here we have the Elegoo Mercury X bundle, which comes with the wash and then the cure separately. So here we have the wash container. I already have some water in there. And so the great thing about having all the tools you need is that it makes the cleanup process much easier. So let's go ahead and power them on. I'll take the cover off this one for now. All right, so let's go ahead and release the models from the printer. So the bed just slides right out and we can go straight into the bathtub. So let me go ahead and pull this out. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a little more water to this. So it goes just above the bed or the build platform. And we'll kind of set it there in the middle and we'll set the timer for about, I don't know, let's say about 10 minutes maybe. Click on it, it should start. And there it goes. All right, so that should be pretty clean. So let's go ahead, take a look at them here, looking good. So now we need to break them loose from the plate. I got this little sheet here we can work on. So I'm gonna grab the spatula. It is somewhat sharpened, not sharpened all the way. Let's see how well it does. Well, actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and look at them a little closer here. You guys can see there is a little bit of an elephant foot on the bottom. So it's not anything major, but it is there. And I think we do need to put a little bigger gap between the build surface and the screen. But in any case, let's go ahead and see if we can break these loose. I'm guessing it'll be probably a little hard, but yeah, it's not coming off easy. So yeah, we definitely need to make the gap a little larger. Oh, there we go. So using the edge of the spatula seemed to work a little better. So let's see if I can do straight with this one. Yeah, that actually not too bad. Maybe I just wasn't doing it right. But yeah, the models are off the plate. And as long as we don't have anything here, we are good to print again. And I did close the printer because of the smells coming in or coming out of it. So the models are looking really nice. And so what I normally like to do, especially with water washables, is let them air dry first. The reason for that, if you stick them straight into the cure station here, which has pretty powerful UV lights, it's gonna cure it really quick. And if there's any kind of moisture on it, it's kind of gonna evaporate quick, and that might leave some scarring on the print. So I kind of like them to dry naturally first, just air dry. And once they dry up a bit, then we'll stick them in the cure station and run them just for a little bit, because this is washable curing, so it's a little bit more sensitive, which if you do just leave it out, it will cure eventually. Let's say in a shaded place, not direct sunlight, but that will take it a while to cure. So we do want to cure it. We just need to wait till all this liquid evaporates from the model itself. So. All right, so it's been about 10 minutes and they seem to be pretty dry. So let's go ahead and cure them. We're going to put this lid on and we'll set it for like 2 minutes. I think is plenty, because this thing is quite powerful and we don't want to go crazy on it. So yeah, the great thing about this Mercury X bundle on the cure is that there are some UV lights that come out from the bottom. Going to really cure our bottoms really nicely. So let's go ahead and start it. And there it goes, and you probably guys can't see much. But yeah, as I was saying earlier, guys, you know, if you're going to do resin printing, especially for using alcohol, you absolutely need this washing cure station. And you do get better results with alcohol printing instead of the washable resin. I mean, it all depends on the settings and things like that, but washable resin just makes it so much easier to deal with. And if you can imagine how much alcohol you would need for this container here, it's quite large. So let's see how it looks like. So yeah, they actually cured pretty well, even for that 2 minutes. So I don't want to overdo it, but we can see already that they're looking really nice. So they might need maybe another couple minutes, but yeah, I can already touch it and it's not even sticky. So all right, so that seems as close as I can get, and you guys can see the print quality is looking really nice. I mean, the first thing I'm noticing is how sharp everything is. Like all of the corners are very sharp. So the resolution is just incredible, and you know, I'm kind of expecting that with the 4K here. Very nice spiral ladder inside the print. I mean, it looks perfect and everything is just really sharp. So let's look at the top here. Those letters there are incredibly sharp. There we go, maybe we can see a little better. But yeah, very impressive. This is definitely probably very close to the best I've seen, maybe. Now we do have a little bit of issue, which we got some droopage here where the layers didn't stick for some reason, and on this side also. So this is an overhang, delaminated, I guess, from the layers. So, and that's probably mostly to the washable resin, which needs to be fine-tuned for this printer. But as far as the resolution and detail, it's extremely nice. So I can imagine how well this thing will do with more prints that we will be printing. But yeah, here's the other one, pretty much the same thing as this one here. We do have a really tiny elephant foot, so that's something that we need to probably adjust a bit on our printer. But other than that, very nice. Our first prints turned out excellent, I would say. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them back in here, maybe run them for a couple more minutes, and we can go ahead and, you know, cure them all the way. So for the next part, let's go ahead and go to the printer and adjust our level. And that should be quite simple, guys. So we will need to remove the vat or the tub. And I'll go ahead. That was our curing station. It's over. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these because I don't want to accidentally lose them in the resin there. So, but yeah, we're just gonna take the tub off, and we can go ahead and set it down because it does have those feet. So I'm gonna make sure the bottom of my plate is clean, and I'm gonna loosen these two bolts like we did before. So we're gonna go to Tools, Manual, and then we're gonna click on Home. But before we do that, I'm gonna go ahead and use the manual again here, but I'm gonna choose 3 pages instead of the 1 page. That should give us a little more thickness. Actually, I might go with 4 because these pages are very thin. Let's go ahead and click Home. So it's gonna come down and go right on top of the 4 pages we put here. All right, so that looks pretty good right there. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten them up kind of a little bit at a time here, one by one. Make sure we're getting an even pressure. Okay, so now we're gonna bring it back up. So yeah, since we use 4 pages, we should have a much nicer gap there, and hopefully that'll be good for us. And then we'll put our tub back in there. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close it. And we are ready for our next print, but we do need to slice some files. So let's go ahead and go to the computer and see if we can slice something. All right, so I got the thumb drive plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So we have a PDF manual, basically a digital copy of the manual we got. Here we have the file which had the test rook, which also comes in STL. And the sliced files are .ctb. Here we have some kind of G code for, I guess, Chitubox. And then we have two files here, which is the Chitubox slicer itself, the free version, and the Pro. So if you are interested in getting the Pro for that 1 year, it might be a good time to get the Pro if you need the Pro version. I think most people will be using the free version anyways. But yeah, if you use Chitubox a lot, the Pro might be a good investment. So if we open the folder, we're going to see there's more folders, and we got Linux, Mac, and Windows. So yeah, they covered everything here. So I'm installing for Mac. So yeah, you're just going to go through that installation process. And this is for version 1.9.0. So if you already have this, you don't have to download it, obviously. But keep in mind, you do need the 1.9.0 because it has the Mars 3 profile. And if we check out the Pro here, you guys can see we only have it for the Windows system. So yeah, I wouldn't even be able to use the Pro, honestly. So let's go ahead and open Chitubox. So if you've never used Chitubox, it's probably the best slicing software for resin printers, and is highly compatible with just about any printers. So the first thing we're going to need to do is click on settings over here by the big slice button. And if we do that, you're going to see the settings section. So if this is your first time downloading it, you'll probably go straight to adding a printer, which is this button right here. So you're going to choose your machine. And you guys can see we have quite a few different brands here. We're going to click on Elegoo, and these are all the Elegoo machines that are supported. And here we have the Mars 3, which is what we'll choose. Okay, that. And now we have the profile open with all of our machine parameters. So you guys can see our resolution, which is quite insane for this size printer. Our build volume is 143 by 89 by 175 tall. Very nice. You can do offsets if you need to. I'm going to leave that alone, obviously. Resin, you can adjust your resin parameters here. Here we have the print parameters, which has a lot of adjusting, and unless you know what you're doing, you should probably not mess with this. And normally these settings here are pretty good and should give you an excellent print already. One thing you can adjust if you wanted to is this layer height, but the 0.05 is a very good medium, and I'd recommend pretty much leaving everything here the way it is. So if we go to advanced, we have a few more things we can adjust. So we got anti-aliasing, and that's gonna help us have a more sharper kind of corners or pixels, I guess. And I got that to 4, and you can go all the way to 8. 4 should be fine. And then we have image blur, which blurs the image. I don't know if this is good or not, so I'm just gonna turn this off. And maybe I'll try to print some prints with it on, but we'll turn it off for now. But it was on by default, so yeah, and that's pretty much it. So now that we have our parameters set up, we can see this is our build volume here. So let's go ahead and drag something in there, and we'll just go big with this Eiffel Tower. So on the left side here, you can see we have main controls. You can move the model around, or you can obviously just grab it and move it around, rotating it and scaling it. So let's go ahead and hit the scale to fit over here. And that's just going to maximize the whole thing. And we are at the full height because our base here still has a little bit more room. So on the top here, you got more controls like hollowing the models out, punching a hole in the model to drain resin, repairing models if they're a little rough around the edges. And over here, we got two sections. We got this main section here where we have the file, and this is how you can delete it. And you got multiple files here stacked up, and then our settings and slice. But this tab over here is our supports tab. Here you have all the settings for the supports, top, middle, bottom, raft. So yeah, I mean, it does look a little complicated if you never use it, but once you play around with it a little, you can learn it pretty quick. And if I just click all here, you guys can see we got some supports going on. So we don't need to use supports for this model, but yeah, this is basically how it works. And you can go in there and remove supports and put them in. So like right now, I'm just adding supports randomly to different places. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty intuitive kind of layout, and you have pretty good flexibility of putting the supports where you need them. So I'm going to click on remove supports, and now they're all gone. But yeah, simple as that. We'll go back to our other tab here. So we're ready to print, and we'll click on the slice. So it generates us a little preview here of all our layers. Tells us how much volume it'll take, which is 28 milliliters, and the print time is 6 hours and 33 minutes. On the bottom here is our printer settings of all our exposures and things like that. So yeah, if everything looks good, what you're going to do is click on the save button. I'm just going to save it to the desktop, and once it saves, then we can just drag it to our thumb drive. And that file was 40 megabytes, and here it is. And now we can go to the printer and print it out. So yeah, guys, simple as that. It's not very hard to use the slicer. It's very intuitive and quite simple to use. All right, so I printed out a few models, and I'm really excited to show you guys what they look like and how they turned out. Before we do that, let's go ahead and clean out the printer. So I've already cleaned the build plate on the last model I printed. So what we do need to do is empty out the resin from the tank. And we'll grab our bottle here and also a filter, because we don't want to put anything back into the container that would contaminate all of the resin. Go ahead and release it. And I'm going to take these out because I don't want them to be falling. So the tank does have kind of like pour spouts on every corner, so you can pour it from any side. But yeah, we're just going to pour it through the filter here, and I'm going to hold it in the air because if it touches, it's going to go on the side neck here and, you know, spill all around. There we go. And it does pour pretty nicely here from the side. All right, go ahead and wipe off the edge. We'll close the bottle up. And if we look inside, we can still see we have a little bit like a layer of resin in there. And, you know, instead of trying to dissolve it in the water or alcohol, what we can do is put it back into the printer and then go into our tools, click on tank clean, and maybe add a little more than 15 seconds, let's say 30, and click next to start it. And basically it'll full screen UV lights through the whole tank. And you guys can see it's exposing the whole screen. All right, so now we should have this middle part here solidify. So we'll grab this plastic spatula and try to peel it off. And it is a little thin, so it's harder to get off here. It does come off, yep, there we go. And you guys can see it literally just peels off the tub. So yeah, we do still have some in the edges there, but we can go ahead and just wash that out in the wash station here. So I'm just gonna put it in there all the way, and we'll turn it on for 10 minutes and let it wash. And that'll pretty much get everything off. Well, let's go ahead and pull it out. And it does look really good. So I'm just gonna wipe it down with the towel, get the water off of it. And we're nice and clean and ready to use for next time. So yeah guys, as you see, it's not very hard to do the cleanup, especially when you got the wash station to help you. All right guys, so these are all the prints that we printed, and I have to say guys, I'm pretty blown away because most of these I printed scaling them down 50%, which is absolutely tiny. And I wanted to do that because I knew this printer is 4K, and for the build size that it has, it had to perform extremely well at this very miniature level. And this is what really intrigued me, and so this is why most of the prints are so tiny. Now the Eiffel Tower here is the full size, or the full Z-axis height that you could print. Yeah, and it's almost as large on the depth there. So yeah, you could, you know, print pretty decent sized models, but I think where this printer really impresses is in the fine, smaller print details. Now, before we look into them, it's gonna be a little hard to show you guys because how small they are. And the lens that I have on this camera does get up pretty close. I'll try my best to show you as close as possible what it looks like. And also keep in mind that when we are that close, you can't really tell how small something is, but you could judge it, you know, just by my fingers moving it around. Another thing I want to mention is the resin I used is the washable one, which to be honest, I didn't think performed as well as this printer deserves, because I did have some layer separations and I haven't figured out how to get rid of that. So keep that in mind that the prints are not perfect. And also I do want to mention that I did change the layer height on these miniatures here to layer height 0.025, and I used a 2-second exposure for the normal layers. So you've guys seen the Rooks. Let's go ahead and look at the Eiffel Tower first. So this is more of a normal print here, and you guys can see it turned out really nice. Now what I look at when I'm really interested in, you know, how accurate or how detailed the printer is the edges, the sharp edges, and it's incredible how sharp everything is. Just looking at the print right away, you notice that the resolution is just mind-boggling. The thing that really is impressive, as we go up here, you can see through it. We can go all the way up there. Maybe I can bring in a light here, and you guys maybe can see it goes right through to the very top, which is ultra impressive. And what's even more impressive, and you guys probably won't be able to see this, but right above that there's a mesh in there, and it's all there. I'm gonna see if I can get really close like this. Maybe you can see that mesh right there. I mean, it's still got holes through it, which is quite incredible. So one thing to mention is that this thing did get bent, and whenever it printed, for some reason, it couldn't do the full height, so it ended up bending the top part, and that's why it kind of broke loose there. But yeah, the Eiffel Tower turned out beautiful. All right, so we're gonna attempt here to go miniature, and we'll start with this little shark here. So this turned out okay. It is a flexible print. As you can see, there's pieces to it. They did all print out, and they're flexible. Now, because of the nature of this print and prying it off the bed, I did break few pieces here and there, one of the fins there, the tail, but overall I did get it out, and it did turn out reasonably nice. And you guys can see here up close, it looks pretty good. And also the mouth did close shut, and there's some resin left in there, and it was kind of all leaking out. as it was curing. So this is probably the, I guess, worstest print out of all of them. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that first. We also printed this millipede, and this thing turned out really good, which is quite impressive. And keep in mind, guys, I had to pry these off the bed, and that was not easy without breaking them. So especially this thing has lots of feet. So yeah, this guy turned out very nice. I'm very impressed with this print. And if you guys look up close, it does look really nice. But yeah, you guys can see how everything just came together on this resin printer, and everything's such a high detail. It's very impressive. So I was quite blown away with this print here. Here we have a neuron, I guess is what it's called, and this is a very complicated shape that's practically impossible to make unless you have a resin printer. And you guys can see it's also scaled down quite a bit, and yeah, it turned out really good. There was a little bit of deforming right here. Other than that, I mean, these lines are ultra thin and they're all sticking together, and it all looks really good. So yeah, very impressive again with the Mars 3 here. It's just the 4K is really putting in the resolution. So here we have a really nice print that turned out excellent. We do have a little bit of a elephant foot, but other than that, it looks really good. And you can see the holes all over his body, and they're literally perfect. The print is extremely smooth and nice. And if you look at his head, yeah, you can see how smooth the layer lines are. So very impressive. I'm just blown away by the layering because it's practically not there. I mean, if you really look close under very critique evaluations, obviously you can see them, but you know, just glancing at it, it practically looks perfect, like an injection molded piece. So, and actually guys, I'm realizing that if I just leave it still here, maybe I can post cropped it so you guys can see a little better what it looks like. So for the next print, we got this tank, and I really like printing this print because it has a lot of detail. You guys can see how tiny this is. It is hollowed out, so yeah, most of the resin got out, but not all of it, so it did kind of leak. I didn't use supports at all, so that's why we have some overhangs here that have issues, but that's not the point of this print. The point here is that if we look at it close, we can see it's extremely detailed, and that's what's impressive. All right, so for this last print, we have this miniature elf model, and yeah, this thing turned out really nice. So yeah, you guys can see that's a lot of detail for this model. Everything looks really good, and just honestly on a level that I haven't seen yet from a resin printer. So I think this Elegoo Mars really does something right, and I think that part is being high resolution. It really is able to deliver on the quality of the print itself. All right, guys, so yeah, as you can see, I'm really impressed with the Mars 3. I feel like it really sets a new bar for resin printing. Being 4K is quite impressive for this size build, and really shows, you know, how far we've come along with resin printing. So even though this printer doesn't really have super high build quality materials like all this plastic here, and the screen's not so large, and it does slide around quite easy, all the important things like the functions and the internals and all the parts above here are all metal, really make this printer a great value for what it is. I'm so impressed that from now on I will be recommending the Mars 3 to everyone as far as, you know, the best budget resin printer out there. Now with that said, it's not, you know, super cheap right now, but it's definitely reasonably priced. But I'm sure the price will go down eventually, and they do have sales pretty often, so yeah, keep an eye out for that. And if you are new and are interested in getting into resin printing, this is a great printer to start with. It's very simple to use. The UI is great. The Chit2Box program that it comes with is very simple and intuitive, and the overall experience is quite friendly for newcomers. Now, if you wanted something bigger, I would recommend the Saturn, which is also a 4K printer. But overall, I feel like this one here will suffice pretty much anyone, as it does have a very reasonable build volume. So yeah, guys, if you are interested in it, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. And also check out the Mercury X bundle of the Wash and Cure, which is a great companion for this printer. And if you enjoy videos like this, I do have more 3D printing videos to come, so stay tuned for that. And if you did make it to the end, thumbs up for you. And as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.